Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the DFO DFS Report. I am Brock Seguin. We've got Zach Laing with us as always. Hope everyone's having a fine Wednesday afternoon. Nobody on this show is $100,000 richer, unfortunately. I shipped the bed on that one yesterday. It's and then this first question: will Winnipeg shit the bed again tonight? Yeah, well, maybe. Seems to be a theme around here, I guess. Last night was disappointing. We move on. Maybe we will win 5K or 10K tonight. Zach, how you doing today, bud?
I'm doing all right. I'm feeling pretty bummed too, man. I played the smaller 3K barn bash last night, and I was sitting top three pretty much all night long till about 8:30 Mountain Time, and then all of a sudden McKinnon showed up, and that game got off the rails, and then Calgary San Jose went off the rails, and all of a sudden I lost money instead of winning. Pretty bummed about last night, to be honest. It felt like there was some really nice spots we were on, but just couldn't seem to put it together. But hey, you know what? We roll forward. Nice little 5-game slate tonight, 20 max for me. So I'm hoping for some redemption money coming my way tonight.
Yes, onward and upward. Here we go. We've got the Florida Panthers hosting the LA Kings. Daniil Tarasov gets the start for the Panthers. It's going to most likely be Anton Forsberg for the LA Kings. Darcy Kemper was moved to IR yesterday. The Detroit Red Wings will host the Utah Mammoth. Both of these teams are on the second half of a back-to-back, and it's going to be Cam Talbot for the Detroit Red Wings with John Gibson going yesterday, and presumably it will be Karel Vejmelka for the Utah Mammoth because we had Vitek Vanacek going yesterday. Joel Hofer gets the start in the front end of back-to-back for the Blues. Likely going to see Connor Hellebuck in net for the Winnipeg Jets. The Nashville Predators did not skate this morning, so we aren't sure who's starting for them. We are expecting to see UC Saros. Pyotr Kochetkov gets the start for the Hurricanes. The Golden Knights will be without both Jack Eichel and Shea Theodore this evening. They will go with Carter Hart. Unclear at the moment who starts the New Jersey Devils. I believe they're on the ice right now. Actually, no, they didn't skate today. They aren't skating today. So we won't get any information on the Devils goaltender until warm-ups most likely. So that is your 10, or those are your 10 goalies for tonight. Let's get into tonight's slate. Zach, we've got the Florida Panthers hosting the LA Kings. Would you like to take this one and leave me the Red Wings, or do you want the Red Wings Mammoth game?
No, I'll take this one off the bat here. We got the Florida Panthers hosting the LA Kings today. -144 favorites on the money line. The Panthers are 3.2 implied total for them, 2.7 for the Kings. Two offenses who have really struggled this season, and one team in particular in the Florida Panthers who are shockingly terrible defensively this season. Really poor numbers here in their weighted team rankings. Two teams with poor power plays, two teams with really solid penalty kills. Taking a look at the line stacks in this game here tonight, Florida 2 grading out as the best line to target from this game. Sam Bennett, Carter Verhaeghe, and Brad Marchand absolutely on fire this season. They've been an absolute blast to watch and play. Projected for about 10.8% ownership here tonight. LA 2 coming in 6th best line to target on the slate. The Kings top line coming in at number 12. The Panthers top line coming in at 14. This game's drawn some ownership, and it's all on this Florida Panthers side. I don't mind this spot here for the Panthers. I think I'll be getting a little bit of ownership there. The Kings as a whole, man, it's just been such a struggle for them offensively this season. I don't really know where to go, but I think one thing that's nice about this game is the pace score at 97.4. It's the highest of the night, 0.1 higher than that Nashville Carolina game going on later tonight. The Kings are coming in with very favorable matchups in this top 6 here. I think Warren Fogle getting bumped up to that second line. It's a guy that I've always liked, man. I've always had a special place for him in my heart from his time with the Edmonton Oilers. They are drawing a great matchup score here tonight, projecting to see 70% of their ice time going up against that Panthers top line. I think I'll get a little bit of ownership on this top line for the Kings as well here. But, when you look at the line stats, this is where it kind of gets a little bit rough, right? Because, boy, this offense is just putrid for the Kings this season. This top 6 is just nothing like we've seen in the past. The nice thing is that they play a lot of minutes. They both draw 30% of the ice time on any given night, or at least are projected to here tonight. But it has to be expected. It's a solid defensive hockey team. The Florida Panthers side of things, pretty even split in terms of their ice time projected within that top 9. You can see that second line has been the real dangerous one here tonight. I think this is an interesting game to a certain extent. I just don't really know, because I think I feel more comfortable playing the Florida Panthers side of things here tonight, just because of what we've seen from them over a larger body of work throughout the course of this season here. And again, like I've talked about, this Kings offense has just absolutely sputtered this season. I think this second line for the Panthers is one that I'll certainly be getting to here tonight. Really solid floors, good ceilings from all three of these guys as of late. I'm definitely going to be getting over the field on 10% of them tonight. I think for this Kings side of things, I'm going to get a little bit of ownership there as well. Maybe 10%, 12% total throughout my 20 max here tonight. I just, it's hard to click on the Kings and feel confident. That's been the thing for them all season here. I think the one bit of a saving grace is that Daniil Tarasov projected to get the start tonight, or confirmed actually to get the start tonight for the Florida Panthers. So I think that, leads me to getting to a little bit more Kings here tonight. But again, man, I just have a tough time here. Like, how are you feeling about this game, and specifically this Kings side?
Yeah, I played the over 5.5, which even that feels tough, especially with the way that the Kings offense has gone. I did find an interesting note today, and it doesn't necessarily mean the Kings offensively, but just games which the Kings play on the road versus on home ice score a goal, 1.2 more goals per game, which makes sense, right? The Kings are a very good defensive team that are very good at matching up with the likes of Danault and Kopitar and company, and Byfield. So it makes sense. So the road games, they aren't able to match up as efficiently and aren't quite as good defensively. But yeah, this offense is a real issue. And to his credit, I think Daniil Tarasov's been fine this year. 903 save percentage, not anything to write home about, but it's actually significantly better than Bob's, which is pretty surprising. But yeah, this Kings team, I think, is difficult to trust. I think the one line that I'm looking at to click on tonight is LA2 a little bit. I think Byfield is in one of their better offensive players. Him just being 4,500 at center, I think, is really appealing. And then Kevin Fiala, obviously, really good shot volume from him, pretty regularly. So I think you get a pretty reasonable floor at a pretty decent price there with that little mini stack. If you want to include Fogle, I think he does enough at $2,700 to warrant it. So I think I'll click on LA2 for some value, and that's the only thing that'll really get me interested in clicking on the Kings tonight is that second line. On the flip side, I am a lot more interested in Florida 1 and 2. Florida 1 specifically just through Lundell and Reinhart. I don't really care to play loose to Reinen, although at $3,300 you can consider it. But Lundell, the shot volume has been really, really solid for him this year, a lot better than last year. The minutes, he's playing 19, 20 minutes a night. Reinhardt's obviously a stud, so I don't mind going to them a little bit as well. But yeah, this second line grades out significantly better. And we fielded a lot of questions on the DFO fantasy show this year, hey, when do I drop Carter Verhaeghe? And I was bummed because, you listen to the podcast. He's a player that I was very high on, and you picked him in a lot of your best ball drafts and stuff. And it was a tough start. And I'm like, just hold on. It's, he's still shooting. It's going to correct itself. And it has in a big, big way. And he's been great. One of the best players in the league over the last month. Marchand still playing extremely well. Bennett really starting to find his stride. So I think that line is full, firmly entrenched as one of the better options on the slate tonight. Because yeah, Anton Forsberg is just not very good either, right? 893 save percentage in 10 starts this season. So I actually think that Forsberg is worse than Tarasov, and I think that the Florida Panthers offense is a little bit easier to trust. So I'm in agreement with ownership here. A lot more ownership coming in on the Panthers side of things, which I think makes sense. And I think the big issue for the Kings is just how just awful this power play has been. They cannot seem to get it right at all. Just 14%, and they draw a really bad matchup tonight against the Panthers PK that's been very, very good. Not a whole lot to write home about on the Panthers side of things, other than the fact that they lead the slate in terms of power plays per game, and the Kings are one of the more undisciplined teams. So even though the Kings PK is good, the Panthers power play should be afforded numerous opportunities this evening. So yeah, by and large, I think, like I said, I bet the over, but I still I think it'll probably scrape by the over if it gets there. I don't think it's going to be a game with a ton of fireworks. And I don't really think, though, when you compare this game to the rest of the slate, there doesn't really look like there is a game tonight that's going to be this super high scoring shootout. Of course, one can kind of materialize out of nowhere. Potentially that Carolina Nashville game, I think, has the most high likelihood of that happening, possibly Detroit, Utah. But all five of these games feel relatively low event in the grand scheme of things, which, you got to compare this game to the rest of the slate. And on a typical slate, I think you could probably pretty easily cross Florida and LA off as being very low event and not one that I'm not interested in. But on the grand scheme of this slate, I think it looks reasonable, at least from the Panthers side of things. How about you?
Yeah, I agree with you, man. I mean, this does feel like a bit of a gross slate. I mean, there's a bunch of teams on this slate that have been playing pretty low event hockey, especially offensively here. I do like that game environment between Nashville and Carolina. Solid shot volume from both of these teams, solid quality as well. I think that's the game that I probably have the most interest in. But I do agree with you here. Like, it does feel like a bit of a gross slate overall. So I think that's why, like, for me, I decided to go 20 max tonight. Like, I was kind of throwing around the idea of just doing a little 5 max and not going too crazy. But the more that I looked at the slate, the more that I was like, man, like, it kind of feels like you need to get some exposure to a lot of different spots here tonight, because this slate could kind of be a gross one, it feels like.
Let's get to game number 2. The Red Wings host the Utah Mammoth. The Red Wings are slight home favorites at minus 118, 3.2 implied total for them. Red Wings offense continues to be just fantastic as of late. Second best 5v5 offense. The power play continues to be really solid. They did a nice job against the Islanders last night. They were kind of snake bit through the first 2 periods, missed some chances, and then really poured it on in the third. And now they get the Utah Mammoth, who come in, basically average defensively, slightly above average in terms of 5v5. PK is pretty good. They do a good job kind of suffocating you out. But I do think that this Red Wings team could still, stay hot tonight. I think it's an okay enough matchup at home on the second half of back-to-back for Utah. And the top line and the second line both grade out within the top 15. The Red Wings top line grades out third best. The second line grades out 13th best. Alex DeBrincat, just one of the hottest players in the league. He's up to $7,800, but he is just scorching hot. And you can pair him with his line mates, Andrew Kopp and John Leonard. Leonard, if you didn't catch yesterday's show, really, really strong AHL numbers. A bit of a journeyman, 27 years old, I believe, but really, really good AHL numbers. Like, I think he's the AHL's leading goal scorer right now at 19 goals in 20 games. So, he's been outstanding, and I think at that price tag, pairing them with DeBrincat is feasible, right, at 14,000. They had a really nice game last night. 14 shot attempts in 11 minutes. They generated a decent amount of looks, 7 scoring chances, 4 high danger looks. So they played well last night without Patrick Kane. I think that they could probably, do the same again tonight. And they've got the better matchup of the two. You're going to see the Larkin line really, in deep tonight going up against the Clayton Keller line, which has played very well this year. Good offensive metrics, good defensive metrics, or at least slightly above average, where Detroit, too, is going to see a little bit more of the second and third line, and the third line struggles a little bit defensively, plays a little bit higher event hockey. So I think that opens things up for Detroit, too, to be an interesting pivot option tonight. And if you want to just one-off to DeBrincat yet again, I think that's fine as well. But Cobb's games turned around a little bit offensively. I think Leonard's a good value. And then Detroit won. Like I said, the matchup isn't great, but they've just been fantastic. Underlying metrics really, really solid for them. You get, Finney up there, still just $3,600, helps keeps the price down. Larkin's obviously been outstanding. A little bit disappointed with the shot volume we've got from Raymond, so not the best floor. And then I think you could still always go the power play route with the Detroit Red Wings. James Van Riemsdyk up there didn't do anything for us yesterday, but the power play grades out second best night, even with a tough matchup. I think that they're in a good spot. On the other side, I think that the Red Wings are still fairly susceptible defensively, and I do think that Utah 1 is in a really nice spot again tonight. I think Clayton Keller, is played well and hasn't really had the results that maybe he deserves. Nick Schmaltz is starting to come back around after, falling asleep at the wheel there for basically a month. JJ Peterka's game is just trending nothing but upwards as of late. So I think they're in a really good spot tonight. The matchup isn't as good, right? They're going to have their hands full. That Larkin line will be very interesting to see that matchup. And then you've got Utah 2, which has the best matchup overall in this game. And Lawson Krause is at 3,500, and Dylan Gunther, that mini stack remains very viable to me. Barrett Hayton's been okay as of late, but I still think he is a bit of a risky click. And then, as always, you can get to Utah 3. Very cheap. Daniil Boot had a solid game last night. Michael Carcone always got good shot volume. I don't mind getting to that mini stack. So again, this game doesn't scream like super high event, but when you take a look at the entire slate, I do think it has a little bit more potential than maybe some of them. I think there's enough firepower in this game to certainly, see some goals go into the back of the net. So I like pretty much all facets of this game. If I had to pick, just one line, I do lean towards that DeBrincat line. They've just been so hot. They're so cheap. I think it affords you the ability to get pretty creative with the rest of your lineup. If you want to click on the Utah side of things, the one thing they've got going for him is Cam Talbot, after a really nice start to the season, has played very poorly as of late. His last 5 starts, just an .852 save percentage. So I think there's a lot to like, a lot of value in this game. That's certainly intriguing to me. What are your thoughts on this Red Wings Utah game?
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, like, I think on paper, when you look at these lines, I think there's reasons to like it. I think one thing for me is like Utah just they kind of feel like they've been really struggling here. I mean, they're 4-6 in their last 10 games. It just feels like this offense is kind of not really clicking right now. It feels like they've hit a bit of a cold spell. But I do like this game environment for sure. I feel like this is a solid spot from an overall perspective. I'll be meeting the field on the ownership pretty much across the board here. Granted, in the head-to-head today, I only have a little bit of exposure to this game, a mini stack and a defenseman as well. So, I'm not totally enamored with it, but I also do think that like when I sit down to build my 20 max tonight, there's more than enough reason to have a fair share of a lot of these guys. I mean, this top line for the Red Wings has been a super productive line throughout the course of this season here. Like you mentioned with the second line for Detroit, really like the look of them as well. And I think there's some depth pieces on this Utah side of things that make things really intriguing as well. I've played this second and third line quite a bit this year, and I'm going to continue to do so in this spot here tonight.
Let's get to game number 3. We've got the St. Louis Blues hosting the Winnipeg Jets.
Yeah, we have a stoppable force versus a movable object here tonight. Winnipeg on the road, going to be visiting St. Louis. First game, I believe, since the playoffs last year, the first round of the playoffs between these two teams. Minus 132 favorites. The Jets are here. 3.1 implied total for them. 2.7 for the St. Louis Blues. I think this is a spot that you like the Winnipeg Jets, right? I mean, I've talked about it a lot this season. Target the St. Louis Blues goaltender. It seems like they're rolling with Joel Hofer here a little bit more than Jordan Binnington. I think I saw something on Twitter today. Hofer's got like 7 of the last 10 starts here. So they're clearly feeling a little bit more comfortable and confident in him. But when you take a look at the line stacks here for this game tonight, Winnipeg won, grading out as the number 1 line to target on this slate tonight. Kyle Connor, Mark Scheifele, Gabriel Velarde. Offensively, these are guys that have had, great seasons, great ceilings so far. Throughout the most of the season here, it just kind of feels like the floor's kind of fallen out a little bit here for guys like Velarde and Mark Scheifele. Kyle Connor continuing to have really solid shot volume his way, but Connor and Scheifele both have had a lot of success against the Blues in their careers. Scheifele, 17 goals and 45 points in 44 games played. Kyle Connor, 14 goals and 33 points in 27 games played. St. Louis 1 coming in with, the 15th best line to target on the slate. St. Louis 3 actually, looking like okay here in this game as a 22nd line to target. And then the rest of these depth pieces, both second lines coming in at 23rd and 26th overall. What's interesting when you look at the matchups in this one here tonight is it's pretty solid across the board for both teams. Winnipeg 2 drawing 100% matchup score here tonight. The matchup seems to be tremendous. I just don't really know if there's much offense to kind of get out of these guys. I think that's the one concern, with playing Niederreiter, Nemestikov, and Cole Perfetti there. The matchups are solid, but the pace score is the lowest of the night here. So I don't really know if I'm going to get a lot of ownership in this game beyond Winnipeg 1. St. Louis, we talk about teams that have struggled to score. It just feels like we're banging our heads against the wall with the St. Louis Blues here. There's really not a lot of offense to be found. When you look at the line stats for these guys, that's gross. Like, there's no other way to
a lot of red there.
There is a lot of red there, not only offensively, but defensively too. Look at this top line for the Blues. They have been absolutely abysmal defensively. Winnipeg 1 is going to see 21% of their ice time against that top line of the Blues. Winnipeg 2, 28%. I think this is a big reason why we're seeing such solid matchups here on the Jets side of things. But in the same breath, like outside of Winnipeg 2, there's not a lot of defense to be played for the Winnipeg Jets here either this season. The second, third, and fourth lines, good goal against numbers, but some pretty putrid other metrics here for this team defensively. So I mean, I feel like I want to get to a little bit of St. Louis here. I don't necessarily feel good about it, but I don't hate the idea of sprinkling a little bit of ownership there this way. I mean, it's a 5-game slate, and they're projecting for like under 5%, under 3% ownership pretty much across the board here for these forwards. I think the top line is probably the one to target, I guess, from St. Louis. You know, Robert Thomas and Pavel Buchnevich, both have been point per game guys in their career going up against the Jets. So, you know, I think I'll get a little bit of ownership that way. But looking at the rest of this Blues lineup, I just don't know if you can play anything here with much confidence whatsoever. And I mean, even playing a Thomas Buchnevich mini stack feels kind of gross here because these guys have not been playing great here as of late. Brock, where are you kind of coming in on this game tonight?
Yeah, I think this is just a very middling team right now with a lot of injuries. This is an offense that was struggling to begin with, and then now it's just been basically patchwork, right? You've got Otto Stenberg making his debut. You've got Robbie Fabry, who was just signed, quickly to the top line. You've got Jonathan Berggren, who was just claimed off waivers immediately into the lineup. I mean, this is an offense that was already struggling, and now you take out Jimmy Snuggerud and Dylan Holloway, Jordan Kyrou. Those are literally half of their top 6 players right there, and it's very difficult to trust this team when they were healthy. I think it's even more difficult to trust them now. Obviously, the Jets certainly haven't been, their typical stout defensive selves. But boy, Connor Hellebuck has not missed a beat since coming back. 929 save percentage. He's only given up 4 goals and 56 shots in his 2 games back against the Capitals and the Senators, both who are much better teams, in my opinion, than the St. Louis Blues are. So I really don't have a lot of interest in St. Louis. I think there's a couple of interesting value options, but I don't think I'll even get there, right? Like Fabry, I think I've 2,900 on the top line. Sure, you could probably click on him a little bit. But for the most part, I think I got a lot of interest in Connor Hellebuck tonight. I just $7,900. He does project to be the highest owned goalie on the slate, which I think makes a lot of sense. He's a stud, and this is a Blues team that's really struggling to score goals right now. On the flip side, Winnipeg just has absolutely no depth scoring. So yeah, it's just same as always. Winnipeg 2 technically is the number 1 matchup, but Winnipeg 1s there's nothing really to dislike about that matchup for them. So yeah, they've been really good at 5v5, 4.3 goals, 4 per 60 is just outstanding. The power play production, doesn't look great tonight. Good PK for the Jets, and they're also for the Blues, and they're also very disciplined. So yeah, I don't think it's gonna be a crazy high scoring game. I could see Winnipeg winning this game like 3-1. But I think that Winnipeg 1 could have all 3 of those goals. So they're certainly going to be in the player pool for me tonight. Nashville and Carolina, I think, is super duper interesting. I think that this Nashville team does not get enough love. And I do think that this is a team that is starting to figure it out. I mean, obviously playing a lot of time without Roman Josi to start the season is going to help you get off to a bit of a slow start, but they've figured things out as of late. They've won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of their last 10 games, and that includes wins over the Red Wings, the Panthers, the Avalanche, and the Blues twice. But this is a pretty good hockey team, I think, right now. And the metrics suggest that is the case. They're the 4th best 5v5 weighted team rating, 17th in 5v5 expected goals against. The PK has been solid. The only thing lacking is that power play. The problem is tonight they run into a Carolina team that's been very, very good, specifically on defense. And obviously they just got Jacob Slavin back in their last game. He only played about 16 minutes and was on the 3rd pair. I imagine that'll remain the case this evening. I don't know if he'll maybe see a couple extra minutes, but he is going to be on the 3rd pair to start again tonight. But Pyotr Kochetkov has not been very good. Brandon Busey seems like quite clearly the best goalie in Carolina, which I don't think any of us saw that coming. But Kochetkov's last 4 games is an 885 save percentage. He's given up 2.5 goals per game during that time. So yeah, I do have some interest in this Nashville side of things tonight. The one thing that needs to be said is that Nashville 1 has been outright one of the most dominant lines in hockey this season. The offensive metrics are above average. They're quite good, but their defensive metrics are unbelievable. They are doing a fantastic job of getting the puck, keeping the puck, generating offense, and giving up very little. So that puts Carolina won in a bit of a bind tonight. Carolina won, obviously very good, but these are ridiculous defensive metrics for Nashville won. I think that Carolina one's in deep tonight, and they're drawing a pretty significant amount of ownership. I think I'll be underweight on Carolina one and overweight on Carolina two, because the way I see this game playing out is that Nashville one will probably do a really nice job in that matchup, and Carolina two will kind of have the ability to try to feast on the other three lines of the Predators, which, to their credit, second line not too bad defensively, but the third and fourth line either brutal or below average defensively. So I think this opens up the opportunity for Carolina 2 to have a pretty nice night. They project for a decent chunk of the ice time this evening. Carolina 3 also kind of interesting, but they just don't have a high offensive floor, and I don't think you need this crazy amount of value tonight. So I'm really interested in Carolina 2. Like I said, I'll get to Carolina 1 still, but you can see it in the charts here. Carolina 2 grades out better. They're very affordable at 14,100. Jackson Blake drawing a ton of ownership. He's up on that top power play unit now at $4,200. I really like them this evening. On the Nashville side of things, I really like this top line yet again. I think they're in a good enough spot. Again, the matchup is not great, but if they can control that matchup against the Aho line, I think they'll be in for a big night. That is the line that gives up the most offense, the most offense for the Hurricanes. So I think that they are gettable, and the way that Nashville one has played, I think they're in a good spot tonight. I don't feel the same way about the rest of the depth for the Predators tonight, just because they are going to be in a little bit more hot water against those second and third lines. There's not a whole lot to write home about them offensively. Obviously, Stamkos is coming on a little bit. Bunting's played well as of late. Marchessault just 3,900. Like, there's enough value there to maybe consider them a little bit. Like, if you want to get Stamkos into a bit of a power play stack, the power play grades out 5th best tonight. For the Hurricanes, it grades out 4th best. So, yeah, this game we talked about, I think this game has the potential to be the highest scoring game of the night. And I think for me, I'm going to trust the charts here. I think it makes a lot of sense subjectively when you go through the numbers that Nashville 1 and Carolina 2 look like the best plays from this game. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with you here, man. I've got interest in this game for sure. I've been getting to more Nashville lately with success. I was on Stamkos when he had that 4-goal night last week. That was a really nice one there. His price tag is kind of sticking steady around that mid 4K range. And I like that because the shot volume has been there for him lately. He himself has had success against the Hurricanes in his past. But yeah, this top line, man, they've been a lot of fun to kind of play here as of late. They're a very affordable price tag. I think that's something that's really nice here on this slate as well. And I've got interest in this Carolina side of things too. I'll get some ownership on that top line. I do agree with you on this second line. It feels like they're in a little bit of a better spot here. Than this top line for the Hurricanes here, especially with Carolina 2 projecting to play 37% of their ice time, going up against Nashville 3, which is the Predators' worst defensive line. So this feels like a really nice spot for Carolina 2. They'll probably be one of my higher owned lines on the slate tonight, but definitely going to show some love for this Predators side of things too. For as good as the Hurricanes have been, defensively over the last number of years, their goaltending has just really struggled for them. It kind of sewered them much of the season here. So yeah, a lot of love here for Nashville. I'll be getting to this Predator side of things too.
Just to pour some water on the Nashville side of things, over the last month, the Hurricanes obviously just very good defensively. They are the second best team on this slate in terms of 5v5 expected goals against. So I do think that Nashville obviously, in the grand scheme of this slate, feels like a team that can get there, and that top line feels okay. But I don't think that they're certainly not a smash play by any stretch. I think that they're worth the click, and I think they provide pretty good floors because second in terms of 5v5 expected goals for over the last month is Nashville. So they've been playing well enough to potentially get there. We saw them do it against Colorado. So even in a tough matchup, I think they're fine, but certainly not like a nuke play by any stretch. Let's get to Vegas and New Jersey. Just before we do, we don't know 100% what the Vegas Golden Knights lines are going to look like. At least that's what one reporter said. But then Danny Webster said that this is what the lines are going to be. He seems pretty convinced that these are the lines. So we're going to see Marner, Howden, Stone, Barbashev, Hurdle, Dorofeev as the top 6 potentially for the Golden Knights. The one thing I don't know for sure is what the power plays will look like. They're a team that likes to roll the 5-forward power play. So potentially Barbashev moves up into a kind of a net front role. Maybe Hannafin moves up. just take it with a grain of salt here with the Hanifin stuff. We don't know exactly how it's going to look. Bowman's been on that top unit. It could be Bowman that moves back up there. A lot of kind of moving parts here and uncertainty with the Vegas Golden Knights. So, yeah, I think there's a pretty good chance that Bowman's back up there. I think there's a decent chance that it's Hanifin. We just don't know for sure. The one thing I can say with some certainty is that Hanifin's probably going to get an abundance of minutes tonight with Shea Theodoro. But back to you, Zach.
Yeah, kind of an interesting game here as a whole. I think there's a couple of interesting spots to attack here, but like you mentioned, like with the bit of uncertainty around the lines, the fact that this is the latest game on the night by 2 hours after that Carolina Nashville game, you're gonna have to kind of keep that in mind when you're building your lineups tonight. You might have to do some tweaking here. Nonetheless, Golden Knights here as the home favorites, minus 154 on the money line, 3.1 implied total for them, 2.5 for the New Jersey Devils. I mean, look at how good Vegas has been. Like the offense is solid at 12th overall, but boy, the defensive and special teams metrics for this Golden Knights club has been just absolutely stellar throughout the course of this season here. Taking a look at the line stacks here in this game tonight, New Jersey won, grading out as the best line to target from this game as a whole. Really interesting spot here for them because they're not drawing a whole lot of ownership whatsoever at just 5.4% overall, but they're coming in as the fifth best line to target on the slate as a whole tonight. I like the idea of getting over the field here on New Jersey one. No Jack Eichel in the lineup, obviously a tremendous player there for the Golden Knights. And I kind of look at this Golden Knights team and it's kind of hard to pin down exactly where to go with them on a regular basis. I think not having Eichel in the lineup makes it a little bit easier to just kind of click on Vegas 2 and feel okay about that. This top line, I just don't know how much I love the idea of Brett Howden up the middle between Mark Stone and Mitch Marner. I will say that Mark Stone has been great since returning from injury. Mitch Marner's continuing to find ways to be productive. And truth be told, I mean, let's be real here. They're not expensive whatsoever. I mean, $14,100 to full stack. Marner Stone mini stacks are certainly something that I'm going to have interest in here tonight. And probably the Hurdle Dorofeev mini as well. I mean, again, I don't really feel great about playing Ivan Barbashev on a regular basis. I cannot seem to get that guy right. When I play him, it's a snowflake in my lineup. When I don't play him, he seems to score a goal and have 2 points or something like that. So I think for me, the most interesting spot in this game, I think, is New Jersey 1. And it's not because they have a good matchup. If you pull those tabs up, the matchups are brutal on the Devils side of things here tonight. They do not look like they are in a good spot whatsoever, in terms of their matchups here. Things are okay, pretty much middle of the pack, about average for the Golden Knights across the board. But what's really interesting about this Devils top line is their projections, man. All three of these forwards, Jesper Bratt, Nico Hischier, and Dawson Mercer, grading out right near the top of the value projections here tonight. I think that makes it pretty easy to click on some New Jersey 1 here tonight, solely because of that reason. Their ownership is really low here at just 5.4%. I think this is a spot you can get over the field on them and feel good. And I think just because of those projections there, the rest of this lineup, it looks pretty rough. Cody Glass has been somehow really solid as of late here, but with Connor Brown and Andre Platt on his wings, I don't know if I feel the greatest about playing them. And again, on this Vegas side of things, I think there's a reason to have interest in this team for sure. I'll be getting there with some ownership. They are drawing quite a bit, around 11, 12% each way here. But again, Brett Howden only drawing 2.9%. Ivan Barbashev just drawing 6% ownership. So it kind of seems like the mini stacks are the routes to go here. And I think that's what you can play with most confidence when you kind of look at this lineup here. I think it's an interesting game for sure. I'm going to get some ownership on this one here. The Golden Knights look to be in a great spot on their power play here tonight. The number one power play matchup on the entire slate, top rank power play, even if it's only converting at 24.7%, going up just an abysmal penalty kill here for the Devils, who are shorthanded 2.8 times per game. So, attacking the Golden Knights at 5-on-5, and I think especially through that power play is probably the route that I feel best about Vegas tonight. What about you? Where do you kind of come in on this game?
Yeah, I think it's tough because we don't know what that power play is going to look like. I think obviously you can feel pretty good about, Dorofeev, Hurdle, Marner, and Stone being there. So those mini stacks make a lot of sense. To his credit, Brett Howden with Marner and Stone, the underlying metrics are extremely good. 3.2 expected goals for, 1.7 expected goals against, 32 scoring chances. They've been really good with Howden up there, so I do think that he's an okay click. The matchups in this one, not a whole lot of hard matching going on, so I don't think it's going to matter. But whoever faces that Stone line is going to be in some hot water today. But yeah, New Jersey 1 projects very well. I think mostly just because they're all projected for north of 21 or 20 minutes because this lineup is so banged up. And I think if they're out there for 20 plus minutes, they can certainly hit value tonight. But I don't really like the matchup. Like, obviously, like the number one 5v5 defense and the number one PK XG is a little scary to target. But like you said, I think it's worth taking a stab on them with how well they project at this modest ownership. So if I'm building one lineup tonight, it's certainly not going to have New Jersey in it, but I don't mind the idea of getting overweight if you're building a lot of lineups. On the flip side, I really like Vegas. I've always been a fan of Hurdle and Dorofeyev. The underlying metrics are a little underwhelming since they moved Mitch Marner off that line, but I think they'll get some additional ice time. Obviously, the power play tonight bodes well for them, and their price tags are certainly affordable. Barbashev, I don't mind including if you need to at $3,800. I think he's fine at that price tag. I like him better when he's with Eichel, obviously. And then, like I just said, the underlying metrics are really good with Marner, Howden, and Stone. Don't get a ton of volume with Marner. Howden's kind of wishy-washy. Stone, not a volume shooter. Sometimes he has kind of like those outlier games, but yeah, Marner, I think, leaves a lot to be desired in terms of the shot volume, where Stone, like, you can get 3-5 shots occasionally. But I think they can certainly get on the score sheet. And at 14,100, they're pretty easy to get to. And I obviously don't mind the idea of putting Stone, Marner, Dorofeyev, and Hurdle all together and build a power play stack tonight, because I think they're in just an outstanding spot. And I think that whether it's Markstrom, whether it's Allen that gets the start for the Devils, I don't think it really matters. This is a team that has struggled quite a bit defensively. If it's Markstrom, 874 save percentage in his last 12 games. So he has really been down bad as of late. This is a team where the injuries just kind of continue to pile up for them. Jake Allen in his last 11 starts a 900 save percentage. So they've both been pretty bad. The injury bug has hit them hard. The one kind of bit of good news is that Brett Pesce's expected to return to the lineup tonight. That'll help the blue line, but then they also just lost Simon Nemec. So, I mean, you take a look at it, Gritsuk, Meyer, obviously Hughes, Dadonov, Simon Nemec, like they are missing a lot of bodies. So, yeah, that's how I feel about this one. In terms of ownership tonight, Utah 1 projected for the highest ownership of the night, followed by Detroit 1. So the public really, really likes that hockey game. Zach, who's like kind of a low owned line that you're really looking at? Is it New Jersey 1?
Yeah, I think for me it's New Jersey 1, and I think it's just, again, it's because of that projection. Like, they feel like they're in a really nice spot there. I think I like the Kings second line a little bit too here, just kind of around Kevin Fiala as a lower owned option. You're going to hear me continue to talk about some of these depth pieces on the Utah Mammoth as well that I think provide fairly solid floors on a regular basis. So yeah, I think there's some interesting spots here tonight for sure. And those are kind of the ones that I'm looking at here too. I think getting a little bit over the field on St. Louis 1, especially that Thomas Buchnevich mini stack. I don't hate that idea either here.
Yeah, I agree with you on LA too. They don't feel like a comfy click, but they grade out really nicely at very, very low ownership. Let's get to the defensemen and the goalies before we head on our way. Noah Hanifin, unsurprisingly, projects as one of the best value defensemen tonight, projected for 25 or 24 and a half minutes with Theodore. I absolutely love Hanifin on a regular basis. Great floor, has some upside, more upside now with the injury to Theodore. So I think he's probably my favorite play on the entire slate from the blue line. Some of these other Hurricanes defensemen, I think you can probably tick down if Slavin ends up playing more minutes, but Walker at 3,300, I think makes a lot of sense. He's fine. Same with Miller, same price tag. Forsling down to 2,900. He was questionable, but he's going to play. I think that he's a fine click. I like the value you get on a guy like Neil Pionk. I don't mind Dylan Sandberg as a pay down option to pair with Winnipeg. 1 does correlate with them pretty nicely. Pesce back in the lineup at 2,900. Plenty of shot block equity there for him at that price tag. Certainly a guy that could get to the shot block bonus. Ben Hutton should take on some additional ice time tonight with Theodore out at $2,600. Ben Sherratt just continues to get it done at 3,100. Anybody I haven't talked about that really sticks out to you?
No, I think solid shouts across the board there. Like Hannafin looks to be in a great spot here tonight. Pareko, very low owned, interesting option that I kind of don't mind clicking on here tonight. Some cheaper guys. Ben Sherratt, he's been just rock solid as of late. Aaron Ekblad been on a solid floor heater here as well at $3,400. I don't mind getting there a little bit as well. I think those are some of the guys that I've kind of got my eye on here.
Can never go too long without mentioning Nick Blankenberg at $2,900 either. Let's get to the goalies. Pretty easy for me tonight. I do like Carter Hart a lot from a fantasy perspective. Let's be clear there. Good spot tonight at $8,100. I think that he, projected second highest implied win percentage on the night. He's played pretty well since coming back. The Devils are very banged up. The Golden Knights are extremely good defensively. So I like Carter Hart in DFS tonight. I like Connor Hellebuck a lot. I will probably click on UC Saros a little bit just because the volume is going to be insane. I think Nashville can steal that game. I think that he could be optimal. It's never easy clicking on UC Saros though, but I do like this spot at $7,200. One of the lower owned guys on the slate, the most volume on the slate for sure. After him, I think it gets a little dicey. Like these three are my three favorites for sure. I don't mind the idea of a little bit of Hofer. I think he's played well enough. So I might click on Hofer a tad, and then maybe Tarasov as well. I think Tarasov's got a bit of a bad rep. I don't think he's terrible. And the Kings really struggle to score. So these four would probably be my four favorites. How about you?
Yeah, I think for me, it's pretty clearly Connor Hellebuck and then everybody else. Obviously been tremendous this season. Looks great in his return here from knee surgery as well. And his stats in his career against St. Louis are just lights out. 25 games played, 17 wins, 4 shutouts, a 2.03 goals against average, and a 928 save percentage. He has been absolutely lights out. So I think for me, I'm going to have a lot of Hellebuck. I'm going to easily be over the field on him tonight. I think I can get to a little bit of Carter Hart here tonight as well. I think that's an okay spot. Tarasov, I don't mind it. I think the concern that I have there is just, lack of volume from the Kings.
For sure.
Some of these other spots, Hofer, I don't mind a little sprinkle there. And honestly, I might throw, this is going to sound a little bit weird, a little bit of ownership Anton Forsberg's way at $7,400. The Kings are a solid defensive hockey team. We have seen the Panthers be red hot here as of late. But for whatever reason, he's got some good numbers against the Panthers in his career. 7 games played, just 2 wins, mind you, but 1 shutout, 2.8 6 goals against average, and a 929 save percentage. So he slammed the door on the Panthers a couple of times. Maybe he can do it again here tonight.
Sean Walker or Ekblad, almost the same price. Pretty negligible difference for me. Maybe Walker. I think the matchup's slightly better. How about you?
Yeah, I think I can get there. I think I can get there with Walker too.
I think Ekblad, like Walker projects better. Ekblad's been a little bit better as of late, but I think the difference is very minute. I am seeing a lack of volume on this entire slate. That is correct, for sure. Talbot and Saros just should see volume. Just need the goalies to stop the pucks. Yep, that's always key when picking a goalie, is trying to pick the one that will stop the pucks. Yesterday, if you had to decide between Philip Gustafsson or Dustin Wolf, the trap felt like Dustin Wolf, and it was. And Philip Gustafsson stopped the pucks. Very key element to picking a goalie. Okay, let's do our hat trick pick challenge. I am going to go first because I'm going Alex DeBrincat. Cat is going to stay red hot. How about you?
Nice. I like that one. I'm going to go with Kyle Connor.
That is going to do it for this edition of the DFO DFS Hockey Report. If you want to participate in the hat trick pick challenge, all you got to do is drop your comment pick in the comment section of the video on YouTube, not the live chat. So wait for the show to end and then drop your hat trick pick in there. If your player scores a hat trick, we'll get you a $25 gift card to Nation Gear, where you can pick up some daily face-off swag. If a player scores a hat trick that nobody picked, we will raffle it off to anybody who submitted a pick. We haven't had one in a while, although Forsberg scored one on Monday. Is that Monday? So I guess we probably have to give one away on Monday. We've been tied up in a lot of stuff. I forgot. We got a head-to-head today. Once again, though, no graphic. So I apologize. Still working on the graphics department here. So this is mine. I went with Vegas. I got Hurdle, I got Hannafin, and I got Dorofeyev. And then I went with a Carolina 2 stack of Stankoven, Ehlers, and Blake, with Carter Hart between the pipes, and then a mini stack of Philip Forsberg and Roman Josi. So feeling pretty good about the floor of this lineup. Hopefully the ceiling gets there as well. We can never be too sure. But I think it's interesting that I played Carter Hart because you played New Jersey. So this one should be fun.
Yeah, sure did. That was kind of the building block that I started with here tonight. Got the mini stack of Nico Hischier and Jesper Bratt with some correlation through Luke Hughes there. Wanted to get some Winnipeg 1 ownership here. Mark Scheifele, Kyle Connor. And then we got the depth piece here with Daniil Boot, Michael Carconi, and Sean Dursey mini stack. I ran them last night. They almost won me $1,000. Let's see if we can run it back here and have some success tonight. And then again, Connor Hellebuck between the pipes. For me, I kind of went with like a real GPP kind of low own sort of build here. Again, New Jersey 1 not drawing a whole lot of ownership here tonight. Utah 3 certainly not drawing a lot of ownership on a regular basis. But I like some of these spots here for these guys that I've hammered tonight.
Jersey's a name that we did mention that we both really like on the blue line tonight at $3,700. That is officially going to do it for this edition of the DFS Hockey Report. We'll be back tomorrow for, I think it's another 10 game slate. So thank you so much. Smash the like button. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Until then, cheers.
Cheers.